You have been chosen not because you were lucky but because you are the perfect target, and the person who entered your life saw something in you that they knew they could use, and the most terrifying part is that you welcomed them, you opened the door, you gave them access to your soul because they felt familiar, and that familiarity was not love, it was the echo of every wound you have ever carried, and Carl Jung would recognize this as the shadow calling to the shadow, the unconscious seeking its own reflection. And this is the empath's darkest truth: the people who hurt you the most did not find you by accident, they found you because your wounds were visible to them like a beacon in the dark, and they were drawn to that light because they knew you would give them what they needed: attention, validation, energy, and endless forgiveness. And you gave it because you have been trained your entire life to give, because giving is the only way you know how to feel worthy, because receiving feels dangerous, because asking for what you need feels selfish, because your worth has always been measured by how much you can endure and how much you can forgive and how much you can give without ever expecting anything in return. And this is exactly what makes you the perfect target for the narcissist, because the narcissist does not look for someone strong, they look for someone who has been taught that love is earned through sacrifice. And you learn that lesson so well that you do not even recognize it as a wound. You call it kindness, you call it patience, you call it unconditional love, but Jung would call it a wound that has not yet been healed, a shadow that has not yet been integrated, a pattern that will keep repeating until you finally see it for what it is. And today we are going to look at that pattern. We are going to pull it out of the darkness and examine it with brutal honesty. Because the empath's darkest truth is not that they attract narcissists, it is that a part of them has been choosing the narcissist all along, not consciously but unconsciously, because the narcissist feels like home, because the narcissist mirrors the love they received in childhood, because the narcissist is familiar and familiar is safe even when familiar is destruction. And this is the first reason empaths attract narcissists. You are unconsciously recreating your childhood wounds. Jung believed that the child's first experience of love shapes their entire relationship template for life, and if that love was conditional, inconsistent, or absent, the child internalizes a belief that love must be earned, that love is unpredictable, that love requires sacrifice, and when they grow up they will unconsciously seek out relationships that mirror that early experience. And this is why the empath does not fall for the kind, consistent person who shows up and loves them without conditions. They fall for the person who keeps them guessing, the person who withholds affection, the person who makes them work for every crumb of attention, because that feels like love to the wounded part of their psyche, because that is what love looked like when they were young. And the unconscious mind does not know the difference between love and familiar pain. It only knows what it recognizes, and what it recognizes it seeks. And this is the trap that keeps empaths stuck in cycles of toxic love for years, sometimes decades, always hoping that this time will be different, always believing that if they just give enough love, enough patience, enough forgiveness, the narcissist will finally see them, finally value them, finally become the person they were always meant to be. But the narcissist never becomes that person, because that person never existed, and the empath is chasing a ghost. And this brings us to the second reason empaths attract narcissists: you are afraid of your own power. Jung observed that the shadow contains everything we have rejected about ourselves, and for many empaths what they have rejected is their own strength, their own voice, their own capacity for boundaries and self-protection. They learned early on that being assertive was dangerous, that saying no would lead to abandonment, that taking up space would result in punishment, so they buried their power deep in the shadow and they projected it onto others. They became drawn to people who seemed powerful, because they could not access that power within themselves, and the narcissist appears powerful, but that power is a mask. It is a fragile illusion built on a foundation of deep insecurity, and the empath's fear of their own power keeps them trapped in a dynamic where they surrender their energy, their time, and their emotional well-being to someone who will never appreciate it, and this is where the cycle becomes devastating. The empath gives and gives, hoping that eventually the narcissist will see them, will value them, will finally love them the way they have always wanted, but the narcissist cannot give what they do not possess, and the empath keeps waiting for something that will never come because they are waiting for the narcissist to become someone they are not. And this is the empath's darkest truth: the person you are waiting for does not exist. You are in love with a projection of your own unclaimed power. You are chasing a version of them that only exists in your imagination, and the real person standing in front of you cannot give you what you need because they do not have it to give. And this is why the empath-narcissist relationship is so destructive. It is not just a bad relationship, it is a psychological trap designed to keep both people stuck in their wounds. The narcissist stays trapped because the empath provides an endless supply of attention and validation, and the empath stays trapped because in the first place, and the more they try, the more they lose themselves, and the more they lose themselves, the more they believe they need the narcissist to feel whole. But Jung would remind us that the answer is not to find a better partner. The answer is to reclaim the parts of yourself you have projected onto others. The power you see in the narcissist is your power. The confidence you admire is your confidence. The strength you crave is your strength. You have simply given it away, and when you take it back, the narcissist loses their hold on you because they were never attracted to you. They were attracted to the energy you gave them, the attention you offered them, the validation you provided, and when that stops they will leave. But by the time they leave, you will no longer care because you will have finally found what you were looking for, not in them but in yourself. And this is where the real healing begins. Jung believed that the path toward wholeness requires us to face our shadows and to stop using other people as a way to avoid our own inner work. And for the empath, this means facing the shadow of their own power. It means acknowledging that they are not weak, they have simply been afraid to be strong. It means understanding that their sensitivity is not a flaw, it is a gift that has been misdirected. It means learning to set boundaries, not to protect themselves from others, but to honor themselves. And it means recognizing that the love they have been seeking outside themselves has been waiting inside them all along. This is not easy. This is the hardest work you will ever do because it requires you to stop being the victim and start being the author of your own life. It requires you to stop waiting for someone to save you and to start saving yourself. It requires you to stop giving your power away and to start claiming it as your own. But I promise you this, the freedom on the other side of this work is worth everything you have been through. Because when you stop attracting narcissists, you do not just stop attracting toxic people, you become someone who is no longer available to be used, someone who is no longer interested in fixing someone else, someone who is finally ready to receive the love you have always deserved. And that love will not come from a narcissist, it will come from someone who sees you, who values you, who respects you, and who does not need you to be less than you are so that they can feel more than they are. And that is the kind of love that heals, the kind of love that transforms, the kind of love that sets you free, while also recognizing that ultimate guidance and strength come from God, because every heart, every connection, and every moment of our lives exists within His knowledge and wisdom. So I want to leave you with a question: what would change if you stopped trying to earn love from people who cannot give it? What would change if you started giving that love to yourself? Because the empath's darkest truth is not that they attract narcissists, it is that they have been waiting for someone to love them the way they have always loved others, and they have been waiting in all the wrong places. And when they finally stop waiting and start loving themselves, everything changes. The narcissists leave, the toxic patterns break, and the love that was always meant for them finally arrives. And that is the beginning of a new story, one where you are not a victim of your past, but the author of your future. And that story starts today. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who might be fighting their own painful cycle, because sometimes the right words at the right time can change everything. And if you are ready to continue this journey of self-discovery, subscribe to Winds of Thought and turn on notifications, because the deepest truths about ourselves are rarely found on the surface. They are discovered when we have the courage to look within and understand the hidden parts of who we truly are.